All right. Well, Sunday night, you'll be here for Seahawks
Yes.
Packers. We're excited to have you. What are you excited to see in this game?
Oh, man, everything. First off, Seahawks Packers, I immediately looked to the left end zone to see the Fail Mary. Collinsworth did the Hasselbeck, we're going to take the ball, we're going to score playoff game in Green Bay. So, like, the two of us were laughing on Sunday night. Like, we've both lived two chapters of, what isn't really a big rivalry, but two teams that have given us memorable moments and are in position to do it again. This is a really nice turnaround with Seattle. Mike's done a terrific job of figuring this thing out as they go along. And Green Bay's lost his guys, which are the best teams in the NFL. Two to Detroit, one to Philly, one to Minnesota. You want to throw KC and Buffalo in there? Of course, they're in that small group. But Green Bay has no embarrassing losses. This is a very good team and a huge spot for Seattle to keep that one length ahead in the division.
What do you remember of Mike Macdonald, the D coordinator? Did you guys have some Sunday night games where you chatted with him in a production meeting and were around him? And through that interaction, did you think that this would be possible year one, really building an identity and a foundation?
Once or twice with Baltimore, for sure, for me. And really observed him even more closely when he was the Michigan defensive coordinator, because we live in Ann Arbor. So that 2021 season, I wasn't covering the team, but you see all the stories and all the news and the press conferences with the coordinators, and you just get a sense of a guy who, very, very built for the job, right, in today's day and age. Solid defensive coach, fundamentals are important, a willingness to take all first-time coordinators, but also a comfort to bring in a Leslie Frazier to have big eyes over the whole operation to make it work. I spent a bunch of time, maybe a bunch of time is overstating it, a couple hours with Mike and Stephanie, his wife, at the owners' meetings, and we were just talking about just the adjustment, and it really seemed like it was all big and brand new. And to watch a guy get off to a great start at 3-0, go through a rough stretch, but then make the adjustments, that tells me that what everybody saw when he was with Harbaugh, both in Ann Arbor and in Baltimore, was right. That this guy has the temperament and the brain and the smarts and the football acumen to be a good head coach. And I think he's on his path to doing that.
It's interesting because as a defensive guy, those have not been the most popular hires around the NFL the last 5, almost 10 years now. I do wonder if he has the kind of success that it looks like he's starting to have. Will we start to see that worm turn a little bit, and especially as the passing game is coming back to earth a little bit? I do wonder whether or not we'll see some changes in guys who get considered to be head coaches.
It's an interesting thought. Two large picture shifts in football. One is, as you said, the passing game is being regulated a little bit. I go back to Kansas City was this greatest thing in the world. And then teams said, you know what? I'm done with it. Let's just put two safeties back there and go 10, 12 plays down the field. And all of a sudden, Tyreek Hill running 80 yards down the field wasn't there the way it used to be. Same thing with Miami. And a lot of folks are running the Kyle Shanahan-based offense. So they're getting a lot of looks at this. And what are we finding? The defensive chess move of two safeties, make a late move to rotate a second safety back, confuse the quarterbacks a little bit, force them to check it down, go 10 plays, go 11 plays. It's hard because somebody holds, somebody false starts, 1st and 15, 2nd and long, now we can blitz and all that. That's a big trend in the league. So the defensive coach trend, here's the problem. When you have an offensive head coach, you're not changing your offense, right? That guy's system's going to be in place. When you have Mike, let's say there's success on the offensive side this year and next. And now Ryan Grubb is being looked at as a head coach. Then you got to bring in a new guy, which is a new system, which is a change, and all that stuff, right? So that's the problem with defensive head coaches, because the offense feels like it's such a bigger ship to turn in the ocean compared to a defense. So those are the things. But in general, I agree with that principle. I like it right now. I just want a leader of men. I want a guy who can get up in front of 53 guys and get him going in the right direction 17, 18 times a year. And I think Mike's got that kind of wiring.
I'll be surprised after your production meeting if you don't walk away and go, my gosh, is there a more transparent and vulnerable leader of men? I think that's what Salk and I have noticed over these 9-10 months of kind of getting to know him. Yeah, just so authentic. And when he says, like, you know, and he he'll take a little shot at himself, have fun with himself, like, it's real. Like, he's not trying to put on a facade of, oh, I know everything and I've been there and done it.
I think even more so, Brock, I don't think he necessarily thinks of himself as being a great leader of men yet. I mean, I think that's one of the things that jumps out to me, the authenticity and humility to say, hey, that's part of the game that I'm still working on, and I'm still trying to figure out how to lead this group of 53 every day.
Yeah.
Well, Brock, I'll turn this back to you. I mean, you've seen 20 college coaches and talked to 20 college head coaches this year or something in that neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. Don't you find that the younger coaches are more like that because they are closer to this generation of players? Ergo, they must know how to connect with these guys a little bit better. And I think the authoritarian figure is something that is not embraced generationally as much as it once was, that one of our guys is the guy who we want to lead us.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I think through actually something Jeff Fisher had said when the Seahawks did a joint practice there with Tennessee, he had said to me, you know, I bump into these guys. And I would add this as a strength of Mike's versus maybe some of the other younger generation, that while they have connective tissue, they're not as curious. And he said that's what jumped out with Mike, was like he was one of these young guys that was genuinely, authentically asking me questions. And those ones are, I think, the ones to me, Mike, that jump out. Like, you do run into these young guys and, you know, they will connect and, oh my gosh, they know the language and they are young and, you know, and they are so high energy. But the ones then that are also curious, the Kenny Dillinghams, right, that also will ask questions, that don't think they've got it all figured out, I'd put Mike very much in that camp.
Well, they've all grown up in an era of, as we all do now, hey, let me go research this. Let me go get on the internet and read about this and learn about this. And let me go watch a YouTube video. And then, okay, I'm going to figure out how many people we've seen. Hey, I picked up this move on the basketball court. I went back and watched YouTube videos of player X or player Y, right? It's a society that has evolved to, the answers are out there if you take the time to go find them. Yep. And that, if you have that curiosity chip, gets satiated by doing those types of things. So I think it's a fascinating study. It doesn't mean that the long-term coaches can't survive and exist. Like, watch Hard Knocks and Mike Tomlin. Mike's in his 50s now, but man, Mike Tomlin talking to Joey Porter Jr. about being a corner and you're not going to be great tomorrow, but what you do today is going to lead to that tomorrow. Like, he can still relate in a different way. So it's a mix. It doesn't mean everybody's got to go out and hire a 37-year-old guy, but the right guy can be a leader of men, even though he's 10 years older than them.
This is why you've got the Sunday night game. This is why you're the greatest, because you just set us up, obviously, for the easiest segue of all time. Because what is that going to look like now at North Carolina? As the exact polar opposite of that is going to be talking to 17-year-old kids in their parents' living room. Can this work?
Look, everything can work, right?
Of course.
There's not one box of these are the only right answers, right? The world has been defined, created by people who are salmon, who swim upstream, right, and do it differently. So, of course, it can be done. Think about Bill Belichick that you've consumed via media this year compared to the Bill Belichick you consumed for 20 years before that. Maybe he made you laugh 4 times in the prior 20 years. Now, he's hysterical. He tells stories on the Manning Cast, on a podcast. He's on, like, honestly, 8 months ago, if I would have sat you down and said, hey, guys, Bill Belichick's going to be on every week with Pat McAfee. Like, really? Are you serious? But Bill has shown that ability to adapt, to change. There's a core of coaching and teaching that's not going to go away. Mm-hmm. That's there. For North Carolina, you put the resources behind it, you get the people there, and Bill sells you as it's the pre-NFL. It's just like a big year-long combine. Come here, you're going to be drafted because guys are going to go, hey, this kid's coming right in, and he knows how to practice. He knows how to do this. He knows how to do that. So he's figured out a way to take his gift, his skill set, and adapt it to these guys. Absolutely, it can work until they come up to the Dome and Syracuse beats them next year.
That's right.
It can absolutely work.
That's exactly right. Hey, last couple minutes, Mike. Thanks always for your generosity of time and wisdom and everything else. We know Seattle inside and out. We live it. We breathe it every day. It's a big deal to us. Don't know these Packers quite as well. You mentioned their really tough schedule and a really solid team. Certainly know the head coach, quarterback, all of that. Have you guys had them this year in person? Have you seen Green Bay?
This is a great week for me because I had Green Bay on Thanksgiving. So it's only one game between our last game and their game. And as you know, Brock, that can make an entire week, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. You've got all the background, all the foundation already laid. So, yeah, now it's just adding a couple layers to it. So talk to us.
Exactly.
What do you think, knowing these guys, what do you think will be a couple of the biggest keys with these Seahawks?
Yeah, I walk you across the board. Offensive line's good. Offensive line is young and good and all homegrown, all drafted and developed. This is a draft and develop organization. They are a young team, but veteran in a couple of key places. So the O-line's done a nice job, been together most of the year, and Josh Jacobs has been terrific. As good as Aaron Jones was for 7 years, Josh Jacobs has come in. He's a little bit younger, and he's given them a little bit more, and that's been very positive for them. Receivers, Christian Watson's their deep threat. Everybody else does something, but they've got a lot of guys. They've got 5 receivers who they trust. Good tight end in Tucker Kraft. So offensively across the board, you don't sit there and go, they're unbelievable, but you don't sit there and say there's a weak spot. And Jordan Love, he's been in the league 5 years, but it's his second year playing. He's only started 29 games. I think we're seeing him grow. Defense, Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark are the veterans up front. They don't have anybody else who's one of those like war daddies off the edge who makes all the plays all the time. Linebackers have been good. If they get Jair Alexander back, it adds to a good secondary where Xavier McKinney from the Giants has been a ball hawk, a center fielder. Geno's problems in games has been throwing the untimely pick. Xavier McKinney's first half of the year has been getting the timely pick. So I'd be concerned there. A good return game in Keyshawn Nixon. Overall, like a really solid team that if you asked me, could Green Bay go into Detroit or Philly and win or the South or West winner and win a playoff game? Absolutely. I wouldn't blink an eye. Good, solid, well-coached team, hard to beat. A Seattle win here would let you believe Seattle could be considered in a similar vein where they could go somewhere and beat anybody in the NFC.
Yeah, that's sort of the one thing Seattle doesn't have, right? They don't have a signature win yet this year, but they're going to play Green Bay and then they're going to play Minnesota here over the course of the next 2 weeks. Win one or both of those, and maybe it changes some of the conversation around these Seahawks, right?
Hey, we could say all we want, right? All we want. Look at this tiebreaker, that tiebreaker. Just sitting here on December 12th, it smells like the game against the Rams is going to be for the division.
Yep.
Now, that could change with one injury here or there. It just, if you give me like what's a feels like thing right now, it's that Seattle at LA is probably going to be for the division.
I said a couple weeks ago, I have a feeling we're going to see you that night. Just a gut feeling.
I'm more than happy to see. We see Seattle week 15. See them week 18. I'm very happy to rinse and repeat that one.
I bet you would. Yeah, you've done all the work. It should be great. Trip to L.A. right around that time of year doesn't sound too terrible. Yeah. Before we let you go here, Mike, I'm always curious about you. What excites you these days? You've been doing this job now for quite some time. I know you love it. I'm not suggesting you're bored or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're working on new projects and new ideas. Like, what gets you excited in your job these days?
Just the cycle of around the corner, there's a new something waiting. For example, the Winter Olympics are a year away, and we're going to be doing the Super Bowl and the Winter Olympics around the same time. So I'm excited about watching all the new winter athletes here as they're competing in their stuff because this is their last big competition season. I'm excited about the NBA. We're back in the NBA business next year. So this time next November, we'll be doing NBA games around our Sunday night games. But what still excites me the most is being at stadiums. It's still 30 years later, has not gotten old. I said it on the air last week. We're going on a run of Green Bay, Lambeau, Buffalo with 5-6 inches of snow, which was ideal, then to Arrowhead, and now to Lumen to see the 12s, right? Think about those 4 weeks in a row, and you get to sit at the 50-yard line in a perfect spot in maybe the 4 best atmospheres in the league, all right in a 3-week stretch. Like, how can you not just pinch yourself and be so lucky to do this? And that's still, as much as anything around the corner, gets me fired up. Like, I asked your producer when we dialed in, I said, what's the forecast for Sunday? Is it going to rain? Like, I just want to get there and experience Seattle in the holidays. And, you know, I'm kind of disappointed it might be dry. Like, a rainy night just makes a Seattle game. But anyway,
you never know. Yeah, don't count on that. I mean, it changes very, very rapidly.
I promise.
And I'm surprised by the answer. I really thought you would have said the occasional opportunity to do local radio. So I'm very, very surprised by that answer.
You know, I'm very selective. I too move around my schedule for Brock.
Wow.
So, you know, anytime, this is my fault. I'm the one who reached out to Brock and Jason after
right.
Brock's snicker, and you know, just kind of started knowing we were coming here, so just started the process.
Will you still do that next year? Brock's going to be done. Are you still going to do that next year? Brock's not doing this anymore.
Yeah, I know. Well, it'll be a lot easier and more enjoyable. So, yeah, probably.
Mike, you're the best. Thank you so much. Seriously, I always love having an opportunity to chat with you and look forward to watching you and Chris do the game on Sunday night. Thank you so much.
And ditto back to you guys. I seriously do a bunch of these, and a lot of folks do a great job. You two as a combo in this show is really, really good. I hope the listeners enjoy and appreciate what they have, and I always love coming on with you guys. You're both wonderful, so thanks so much.
They don't. No, they just make fun of us all the time, so that's fine. Thank you for telling them that. Maybe somebody will finally convince them that that's true. All right, there you go. There is Mike Tirico.